Hey neighbor, it's Jim. I'm using this YouTube channel to spread my ideas about neighborly politics, about how America bridges the divisions between our states and cultures, and how we can keep those bridges healthy. This video is the first in my series on neighborly activism, how we can advocate for our ideas in a neighborly manner. Our ideas, our ideologies are important, but so is the way we advocate for them. Both conservatives and progressives can be reasonable or hostile. So how do we be reasonable? How do we engage in neighborly activism? I'll examine this with some examples of neighborly and hostile activism on both sides of the ideological divide. First, progressive activism can be neighborly. Remember the activism of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.? He sought to change the society around him for a more just future through nonviolence and love. He sought to win the friendship and understanding of his opponents, not their humiliation. Finally, his protests involved non-participation in racist bus segregation, non-violently sitting at lunch counters, and peaceful marches and rallies. These protests upset people and inconvenienced them, but it didn't demonize or harm them. On the other hand, some more recent progressive protest has been harmful. Consider the May 2020 attack on Minneapolis' 3rd Police Precinct. This had originated as a protest about policing and the George Floyd murder. Such a protest could be conducted in a neighborly manner, but wasn't. Instead, the precinct was burnt and still hasn't been rebuilt or repurposed. On the other side of the ideological divide, one example of a peaceful but disruptive conservative protest was the Boston Tea Party. The Sons of Liberty wanted to protect the rights they had long exercised, rights which they derived from English common law and a more hands-off approach that the British had once used. Once the Intolerable Acts started being passed, however, the Sons of Liberty felt they had to protest. In 1773, the Patriots targeted tea belonging to the British East India Company, dumping it into Boston Harbor. They killed no one and injured no one. Though the protesters numbered in the hundreds, not one of them attacked the captains or crews of the ships that held the tea. The only private property damaged was a single padlock belonging to one of the captains, and it was replaced promptly the next day. The only one injured was John Crane, a patriot, who was knocked unconscious, I assume by the crush of the crowd. The ships themselves were undamaged, and at the end of the protest, the protesters swept the decks and replaced things that had been moved to their previous positions. On the other hand, an example of a violent protest by conservatives from the same time period was the events surrounding the Boston Massacre. In 1770, a group of rowdy patriots had surrounded a group of redcoats guarding the Boston's customs house. A wigmaker's apprentice had had a disagreement with a British soldier, and this turned nearly into a riot. Over 200 patriots were surrounding 8 soldiers, jeering and throwing objects, when someone, not the British officer, yelled, "Fire." 5 colonists ended up dead, including Crispus Attucks, an African-American who had likely escaped enslavement. Though this was used as a rallying cry in the case for American independence, it originated as a riot. No matter what ideology you hold, whether you're trying to conserve your rights or fight for a more just future, we all have the capacity to advocate in violent or non-violent ways. We could demonize our ideological opponents, or we could try to understand them. We could use fiery rhetoric aimed at riling up the people who agree with us, or we could use measured, unemotional arguments that more closely resemble objective truth. Let's use an analogy. In the small Idaho town of Weiser, a bridge crosses the Snake River and connects it to Oregon. Idaho and Oregon are very different politically, but both are blessed because the bridge is there. Idaho remains Idaho, Oregon remains Oregon, and America is the bridge which connects them. If, because we love Idaho or Oregon so much, we went breaking the bridges that connect them, we would lose a lot of blessings. The farmers wouldn't be able to sell to markets in coastal states. Business between the states wouldn't be conducted, and we would all be poorer and less safe. Similarly, when we advocate for really important things like our political ideologies in ways that demonize or dehumanize the other side, the bridges which connect us weaken and we all prosper less and become less safe. So here's your assignment. Think of ways you can respectfully advocate for your ideas, and write about one in the comments below. Be polite and be kind, and together we can make a marketplace of ideas that respects each other and builds the bridges that connects our states and cultures. Thanks, and God bless.